What a good cold open, guys. Thanks for that. Just dead silence for a solid 5 seconds.
I'm not sure what you were expecting, frankly.
I was gonna say there is no Warren Bossing say, but I was like, I'm gonna do him dirty on this cold open.
Great. Well, I am pleased to announce that this is the beginning of the comeback. No, not at the end. This is the beginning of the beginning, or it's the beginning of the continuation of the beginning. Because this is season 2. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm hyped to bring back the OG team. So
well,
yeah.
part of it at least.
Well, yeah, part of
it at least. Dr. Captain
Charles A. Lee isn't present.
Charles A. Lee.
For now, anyway. For now.
Dr. Captain.
Yeah. But yeah. Of course, welcome to season 2. Well, I guess it's like season 1.5. This is like this is a prelude to the main event that will come in later. Yeah, this is like you know, the tip of the iceberg, a nibble at the buffet that is to come at a later date. You know, other analogies that mean similar things.
A prelude to the prelude.
Yeah, this is like the prologue to season 2. But yeah, so Coach Korner K2, episode 0, season 2, episode 0. I don't remember what happened last time, so I'm just gonna get right into the actual campaign and skip the recap because it's been forever since we last did this, and I don't remember where we were.
Last time we left off, we had the run-in with the Foundation.
Yes. The run-in with the Foundation, and you guys were like struck a deal with them that they wouldn't mess with you guys, and you guys wouldn't mess with them and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is
like normal corporations would.
Yeah. So this is probably like a couple of weeks after that deal has gone through. And our scene opens on the basement of the JPCU headquarters in New Orleans, Louisiana. In the deep sub-basements underneath the main skyscraper building, in the personal laboratories of one Dr. Jason Van Helsing. You are seated at your desk, the desk near that like testing chamber where you tested that goop that you guys found in that other mission, and it like opened a black hole to a different dimension and got sucked down and stuff, and you were like, that's weird, and then just kind of moved on. Yeah.
That's ominous.
Yeah, so this is the same desk, same room, and you are at your desk writing a report on a different experiment, a more recent experiment you did earlier this day, and you're tippity-tapping away on your computer. You're alone. It's quiet. There's just the sounds of the pipes whirring in the background and the various wires and stuff sizzling and whirring to life around you, the light bulbs buzzing above in the ceiling. And you're typing away your computer, you know, on like Microsoft Word, filling out the like template invoice documents or whatever, writing up your experiment report. And
yeah, as you do.
You hear like it sounds like somebody's tapping a cane or something, or like wood against metal, and it's coming from, so the door is on your left, okay? It's probably like 30 feet away on your left, and then but the sound is coming from your right, but like behind you a little bit, like diagonally behind you, and it's just these two solid taps against the ground.
I'm not even gonna look. Can I help you?
And you hear a voice that you've not heard before. Very smooth, very I guess it kind of sounds like a little bit British, but not like super British, not like Bostonbrook British, not comedic levels of Cockney. And this very sultry, smooth voice is like, you are a difficult man to find, Dr. Helsing.
Maybe it's because I don't want to be found. Can I help you?
He's like, yes, I suppose a lapdog from the martyrs gets some kind of privacy from such abilities as my own, but regardless, I found what I was looking for, and here I am. And you hear somebody like walking around and stuff slowly behind you, because you've not turned around still, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I'll turn around at this point.
All right, you turn around, and you see a guy, a human man, standing there. He's dressed in very poofy Renaissance era clothes, and he has, in terms of hair, very short black hair on top of his head. His eyebrows are very long and very sharp and pointy, and he has a mustache and a goatee, and the goatee is super sharp. Like it's like sort of like a geometric triangle on his chin, basically. And he has red eyes. His getup is all red and black and gold. He has a cane in his right hand that is like dark stained, like mahogany wood with gold head that you can't tell the design is because he's holding it, and then a gold tip at the bottom. And he's standing there, and he's like, yes, it was somewhat of a chore to find you, but nevertheless,
Again,
here I am.
Because I did not want to be found. Now, what is it before I decapitate you?
Like,
I have a report to write.
You can try, but I'll only come back. You see, I assume you don't remember me. Yes, it's been a while.
Oh no, I do.
He's like, it's been a while since we last saw each other. It's been over a year or two, I think. And you blink, and when you open your eyes again, there is a decrepit old man with a long gray beard, teeth few and far between, wild, crazy eyes with different like pupil dilation levels, scraggy, balding, gray hair, covered in rags. He smells like a swamp. He's like,
yes, and I shot you for a reason.
He's like, I'm Yoda now. And you blink again, and he's back to being like the... I mean, you can think it's probably in his 30s he looks to be around. Back when he like transforms into the tall, other Renaissance-dressed dude with the pointy goatee. And he's like, so you do remember me. How curious. Well, in that case...
I'll turn to him and be like, 2 words. Photographic memory.
Like, of course. What I should expect something from someone as long-lived as yourself. A couple of years for everyone else is only a drop in the bucket for someone as old as you, yes? Going on 4,000 now, aren't you?
More or less, yeah.
And
if you know that I am indeed a messenger of the martyrs, then you know the power that I hold.
And like, of course I do. Of course, that's why I'm here. And he's like, I've come as a messenger, a fellow messenger, you might even say. I'm here I'm here as a warning. To explain that the martyrs might not be the all-powerful beings that you have been led to believe. And of course, I am here as that kind of kick in the pants, if you will. There is a storm coming, my friend, and I look forward to the war.
I proceed to laugh in his face.
Yeah, he just ignores you. He just finishes his spiel.
I would like to see you try.
Like, I'm not going to be the one trying. I'm just the messenger, Ooh, don't shoot me again. And he kind of like chuckles to himself. And he kind of like taps you with the end of his cane. Like, like a shoulder, wink, wink, nudge, nudge sort of deal, but in any case, that's why I came here. So, be ready. And then he taps his cane twice, and he's just gone. With a gust of wind, he's gone. Uh, now,
I'll just chuckle to myself and go back to writing my report.
now we hard cut to a similar kind of metallic room, but this one is quite different. It's styled kind of like an apartment, where all the furniture is made of metal piping and metal plating. There are photos of duck posters all over the walls.
Duck
Yeah, of
posters?
ducks. And Xavier will know why ducks are important. Because this is, of course, the cell of one hell-worshipping warlock man, whose name nobody can pronounce because that was a mistake.
Zhuzhen.
Yeah. And we see Mr. X doing whatever it is he does, probably like painting a picture of some ducks in like a pond or something from memory.
Painting a portrait of Battlecock.
Yeah. Battlecock isn't in this cell right now, but he's around. So yes, Xavier, you are doing whatever it is you do, spending time in your cell deep underneath the New Orleans street, underneath the JBCU headquarters, when you also hear the tapping of 2 cane strikes against a metal floor behind you.
Alright. I'm going to very slowly and deliberately turn around.
And you turn around and you see someone that you... Well, maybe an intelligence check. Let's see. Do you know who this person is?
Getting into the checks right away, I see.
We are.
Of course.
What? This might either be a good omen or a terrible prospects, but I did in fact get a natty.
Ooh.
Okay, well in that case, I'm going to text you who this person actually is, because you recognize him immediately. Which kind of makes sense, this is your wheelhouse. Let's see.
I didn't make a check to see if I know who it is.
Because you would.
Because I probably don't know who it is.
No. Alright. So yes, you see that guy standing in your cell with his poofy Renaissance theater getup and his cane and a rapier on his hip and his pointy goatee and incredibly intense eyebrows for whatever reason.
Oh, he has a rapier too?
Yeah, he's got a rapier. And
What a copycat.
he's standing... He's older than you are, buddy. He's standing in...
Copycat.
In your cell, in the corner of your like a weird apartment cell that you've been allowed to stay in for good behavior. And this figure, he kind of walks up and he's like, "Ah, yes, if it isn't the chosen of hell himself, how have you been?"
I'm like, oh, I've been doing alright. Can't say I was expecting a visit from you, though.
You're like, "Oh yes, normally I don't do this sort of thing anymore, you know, ever since our master was unduly executed on his throne, and hell partially froze over, but that's really what I'm here to talk about. You know, I'm still a messenger, even if I have no more masters. I am my own master now, you know, they gave Dobby a gun, and here I am. But in any case, I'm here to inform you. Your old master is coming back soon, and he might need to call upon you sometime soon to continue the work you never got to finish. So, do be ready, and, you know, look out for signs of my presence and the like.
Oh, I most certainly will.
He's like, "In that case, my old friend, adieu," and he bows very low, and then he's just gone. And then we cut back to JVH in his laboratory, continuing to write up his report, when the door to your left, you know, slides open. And who else but Head Agent McLafferty steps inside your office, carrying a tablet.
I'm going to kind of warn Head Agent McLafferty that something is coming. I'm not even sure what, but something.
She kind of like raises an eyebrow at you, and she's like, "That's very vague and cryptic. I'm not going to
Yeah,
ask."
that's just the message that I was given. That something more powerful, apparently, than even I.
She just seems confused, and she's like, "Okay, kind of random, but we'll address that later,
Might
I
want to
guess."
deliver that to the higher ups. I don't know.
She's like, "Well, I'm here to deliver a message to you, but after I am done here, then I guess, yeah, I will inform the other directors. Um, you have some guests here that want to meet with you, some feds, I believe. They are from the CBPA. They've requested your presence."
Of course, of course. I'll stand, don my jacket, and slick my hair back again.
Alrighty.
Fix
So,
my glasses and whatnot, and get
yeah.
on my way.
So McLafferty leads you through the facility underneath the headquarters and up through the several different secret elevators that get to your personal floor of the complex. And you are brought up to the like 20-ish floor of the actual skyscraper above ground. And you walk into this room, and it's a conference room with a long table and some nice chairs and stuff, a nice crimson red carpet, crimson red tablecloth over the long central furniture piece. And at this long table, there are two very obvious cop-looking individuals, one male, one female, dressed in suits with little CBPA pins on their suit jacket lapels. And they are standing, or still sitting, at this table. And when you walk in, they both kind of stand. The woman has a folder of files underneath her arm, and they both, well, I guess the guy would be like, Dr. Van Helsing, we apologize for disturbing you, but we were sent here to make some, well, I suppose, inform you, hold up our end of the contract. And he hands out a hand to shake.
Of course, and I'll shake his hand.
All right, so you shake their hands, and then they sit back down. And the woman kind of puts the file folder on top of the table in front of you. And she's like, well, as I'm sure you are aware, the CBPA has struck a deal with the JPCU. We cannot operate in the city of New Orleans without the JPCU's consent due to the, well, difficulties our organizations have faced with each other in the past. So we are here to hold up that end of the bargain. The CBPA has reason to believe that a black market auction of illegal magic artifacts and antiques is going to be happening tomorrow evening, somewhere in the city.
All right. Any more information?
Yes, we believe we know where the auction will be held. It will be held under the guise of a charity event. We believe the shell corporation that the auction house uses to cover up its illegal smuggling operations. And of course, the CBPA is very interested in getting our hands on those illegal smuggled artifacts. But more than that, this information comes as part of a case on the auction house's organizer and leader, a man by the name of Stephen Hopkins. He has been involved in several high-profile auctions similar to this one, and they have resulted in, well, let's just say that the Foundation had to be involved on more than one occasion, and you know how unpleasant they can be to work with. So we would prefer to not have a repeat of one of those incidents. So we've come to you, because this is operating in New Orleans this time.
All right. Very well.
And per the JPCU's stipulations, as part of your agreement with the CBPA, we are required to bring the JPCU in onto this investigation of ours, because it happening here in New Orleans under your noses. So we handed the case over to you. However, we do have one more piece of information that we feel you might personally be interested in. And the woman kind of opens up the manila folder she has on the table, and she pulls out from the stack of papers, looks to be a really extensive, like, name list, like a guest list, and she puts it on the table, and she turns it so that you can read the names, and she pushes it across the table towards you. And she's like, this is the list of invitations that were sent out to over 100 high-profile, upper-class collectors and magic enthusiasts around the world. And one name in particular stuck out to us. And you see that on the paper, there's a long list of names. There is one that is highlighted in that, lime, green, yellowish neon highlighter. And that name, of course, is none other than Dr. Nathaniel Bostonbrook.
Huh. Very interesting.
And the CBPA agent is like, now, you can understand our suspicion when a high-ranking investigator within the JPCU's name appears near the top of the list of VIP guests for an illegal magic auction. So, we have decided to strike you a deal. If you help us take down Mr. Hopkins and his organization, we will not investigate your employees as being criminals.
I'll clear my throat because this is honestly a surprise to me too. I'll stand and I'll look to them and be like, well, to be quite frank with you, this is a surprise to us as well. I had no prior knowledge of this, so I will in turn be speaking with Mr. Bostonbrook on my own. But I do thank you. And we will look into it.
And they're like, we appreciate that. And he's like, do keep that in mind, and when you next speak to this Dr. Bostonbrook, do inform him that we will be keeping an eye on his personal affairs from now on. And they stand, and they do leave the file folder of information on the table for you to use. But then they get up and leave.
Is Mick Lafferty still in the room?
Yes, she was standing behind you the entire time.
Ah, okay, cool. I'll turn to Mick Lafferty and be like, please call Dr. Bostonbrook into the room, please.
She's like, I believe he is at his estate in Florida at the moment, sir. He should be overseeing the construction of that extended facility that you wanted built for Katailbast. So I can call him and see if I can get a hold of his assistant. And then the door opens and Bostonbrook walks in. And he's like, good morning. This is the man I was looking to see, Dr. Van Helsing. And, of course, Ms. McLafferty. And he walks over and he kisses her hand. The fleshy one, not the metal one. And he's like...
I'll turn to him and I'll say, I could say the same to you.
And he's like, are you on vacation?
Sure. Although I'm sure that my news for you is less pleasant.
And he's like, well, I'm on vacation in New Orleans, you see. Whenever I'm here, I'm only working, so I decided to take a few days off and come on by to the City of Sin to see what the city has to offer when I'm not trying to capture someone or something. You know who it is.
I'll clear my throat and then take the manila folder, open it to the page that shows his name, and then present it to him.
Okay.
Care to explain, Doctor?
And he looks it over and he's like, this is embarrassing. I see you've... Well, and he kind of sees the CBPA logo on top of it, and he's like, of course.
Our friends from our counterpart organization have come across this and have expressed some great concern due to you being on the list for an auction of extremely rare artifacts.
And Bostonbrook's like, well, you know me, Dr. Van Helsing. I'm involved in all sorts of things. The magic community is my primary social circle, so I know lots of people.
Yes, but when another organization is watching us as closely as they are, I do implore you to use an alias next time.
Bostonbrook's like, "Oh, yes, well, of course, yes. I will inform Miss Valerian, my butler, and she will make sure to do that next time I receive one of those invitations. Well, I suppose since you already know about that, I'm not actually here on vacation. I'm here to go to the auction and purchase some artifacts that I believe
Sounds
I might
about
be interested in. So,
I'm not going to stop you. In fact, I will most likely accompany you. But I do implore you, Doctor, next time, please, please use an alias.
and he's like, "Of course, yes, I will inform my companions in the magical community to take a greater degree of precaution when involving ourselves in these kinds of, well, to be fair, the lads who run this auction are, well, unscrupulous, I believe would be an apt term to describe them. So, I don't associate with them frequently, but they had some items on their list this time around that, well, to be quite frank, I felt it would be better off if I had them than if they had them, so...
Okay,
But,
I'm listening.
You see, now, to be fair, this is, of course... And he kind of leans in and puts his hand up to kind of keep McLafferty from reading his lips, and he's like, "It is, of course, a black market auction, as you understand. So, the people at these auction houses get their goods from aren't always the most reputable. And oftentimes they are fakes or, forgeries, replications of actual magical artifacts. Half of the stock is probably fake anyway. But these items were so high, just so unimaginably rare that I have to think either they're incredibly stupid to actually try and sell them on the open auction market, or they're fakes. And those two items are, well, the first one being the Seal of Solomon. Are you familiar with that artifact?
I am.
Yes, but it isn't just the runic inscription that can be used to trap a demon. No, this is King Solomon's actual ring that you can use to control demons and spirits, and also talk to animals with it, apparently.
You're serious?
Like, I most certainly am, although, I hope it's a fake, but I had to go to the auction myself to make sure it was. And the second item, which is even more unbelievable, is listed as a vial of Satan's blood.
Oh no. Oh no. This is not good.
Like, and I have no idea how these half-bit wizards would get their hands on either of those two artifacts, but if they did, then we have a problem.
A very big one. And thank you for informing me. This will be dealt with accordingly.
That's why I wanted to get an invitation to the auction, so I could handle the authenticity of these items myself. Now, I will say that the auction does allow everyone to bring up to 3 guests along with them, usually as some kind of, personal assistant or security. So I can bring you and Miss Valerian and one other guest of your choice.
We might as well bring the demon along.
And Ross was like, "Yes, I did have him in mind. I feel like he would be a good tool to identify if the items are actually legitimate."
Well, there is one item that he can for sure identify. If he can identify the blood, well, then this is a real threat. And I'm sorry, but your auction ring must be shut down afterwards.
Boss was like, "Oh, don't worry. Yeah, this is only one. I've got dozens of them."
Good to know. I'll be finding those later. And then I'll start to walk away.
He frowns. So
Oh, and Nathaniel,
he was like, turns around and he's like, "Yes, my good man."
this is nothing personal. And then I'll keep walking again.
And he calls after you and he's like, "No, I'm aware. Don't worry." And then he just kind of falls after you.
All right, well, let's go get our boy.
All right. So probably 5-10 minutes later, you all make it to Juzogen's cell deep underneath the JPCU headquarters. So Mr. X, you are just finishing up your landscape portrait of Battlecock stood victoriously atop a cliff with a bunch of huge waves and stuff crashing against the rocks and stuff. And Battlecock looks absolutely spectacular. And you just kind of finish at the last brush stroke when the massive bullet-resistant, magically warded security door to your cell kind of bam, 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 and then it slides open. And you see your handler, the good old Dr. Van Helsing, and your pseudo-acquaintance, Dr. Nathaniel Bostonbrook, who is also holding Battlecock, by the way. The two of them with Battlecock are just kind of stood in the doorway to your cell, menacingly.
I'm like, oh, hello, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. To what do I owe the pleasure?
How unfortunate, and I was just about to come down and tell you that we were upgrading your living quarters.
Battlecock's like, "Fuck." That's it. One.
We have an
one
assignment
signature.
for you, and if you do cooperate, as you have in the past, well, then we will be upgrading your living quarters once again.
Okay, I'll quirk an eyebrow. Oh, and what might this assignment be?
There is an auction, and we must go to it because we believe there are some items that normal people shouldn't have. And I'll start explaining the items to him.
Okay. Yeah.
It is
You know in character what the Seal of Solomon is, because it's stupidly famous magical artifact from like ancient times. And obviously you also know what the Devil's Blood is because it's self-explanatory.
Now, this isn't an interrogation by any means, but would you happen to know the nature of how these items were procured?
That you would probably not know.
I'm just going to shrug and say, first time I've heard of him being on the market. Everyone knows, about said items, I suppose, but they are, more stories and myths than anything you could just go out and get.
Very well. All right, well, let's not waste any time then.
All right. Where are you all off to then?
Well, we need to get some formal attire for X, I'm assuming.
Yeah, he's currently dressed in the kind of standard like bright red prisoner, subject jumpsuit that the JPCU wears. But yeah, you can get him like a tux or something pretty easily.
Yeah, sure. I'll let him pick out his suit.
All right.
Well, I'll have him pick out his suit. I'm not gonna let him.
Okay.
I want him to feel comfortable.
All right. So yeah. So X, you get to go to the GPCU's costume room. In the sub basement.
I'd assume we'd have a tailor.
I mean, you would, yeah, but that tailor is more for like, hey, do you want a suit that can also like, do magic things, then go to that guy.
Okay.
Mundane clothes can be bought from anywhere, so you don't have like a set person for that. And then also, of course, Battlecock also gets a little bow tie for himself.
Of course, of course.
And Bostonbrook is always dressed in some kind of dress clothes. In this case, he has his standard, dress shirt, uh, tie, beige trench coat, khakis, brown shoes, sword, gun.
After I get, dressed up and everything, I'm going to make a trip to the head council meeting room
Okay.
and request that the other head council members meet me there.
Okay. So you walk into the one of the deepest levels of the JPCU's headquarters, in this ultra secure facility. And as per usual, you walk into your personal chamber, and it is just a room with a chair and a desk and a bunch of computer screens on the walls. And you sit down, and the Zoom call happens basically, where each of the directors are on different computer monitors from their own personal security chambers around the world. And O1, the kind of head director of JPCU, who you never met in person before. Nobody has. He kind of, from cloaked in shadow, kind of like, ah, yes, Dr. Van Helsing, you summoned all of us here?
I have indeed. I've been alerted to a rather interesting auction happening soon, and I have come to you to request some funds.
uh, and a different one of the board of directors, the one who's in charge of the money, the accountant, they're like, and how much would you want to requisition?
Well, seeing as the items on list for the auction, and I'll open the manila folder, are the Seal of Solomon, and
They all
the
kind of, you see
blood
the first one, they all
of
kind of
Satan.
like lean in on their computer screens. You can't see their faces because they're all shadowed, but you can
But
imagine
you
they're
can
all
see
like,
the silhouette move.
yeah, and they're all kind of like,
And the blood of Satan himself.
and O1 is like, ah, I see. Yes, that is troubling and shocking that we didn't hear about this before.
I would also like to inform you that an unknown being entered my chambers earlier today, giving a warning of some being more powerful than the martyrs themselves coming to conquer this planet, I can only assume. But he said, be ready for war. And with these items, I would say that we could be aptly prepared for this war.
And the board of directors, you see them all kind of thinking and stuff in their various seats and chairs, and their silhouettes kind of lean back, fold their hands over their chest, or kind of stroke their beards. You can imagine are probably there. And then the accountant board director is like, well, I can imagine that those items are priceless. So how like, I don't know what you want me to do with that information.
I'm still not sure myself, but just know that I may have to place some bids on it.
And the accountant's like, well, as always, you have access to the company's credit. Just don't run us into debt, please.
Of course. I will also say this. Whoever did teleport into my very own chambers may, just may, have the intent to seize these items once we have acquired them. So we must mask and transport these items as much as possible. Any way to keep them secure will be within our best interest.
and a different member of the board of directors, the one who's in charge of like transportation and like security and stuff. They're like, yes, I understand. I will make sure to update the facility's security measures and commission some constructions.
Very well. After we acquire the items, I will be doing my own tests on them, just to see if they are authentic.
Okay, nobody objects to that plan.
And once I do verify the authenticity of these items, I will report back.
And then 01 is like, very good, Dr. Van Helsing. Do keep us updated as soon as you all return.
I'll bow my head to them and then cut the feed.
All right, you do so.
I will then leave the room and then shoot a message to McLafferty. Keep the base on lockdown until further notice. As of right now, we are in pre-war status.
And she just sends back a thumbs up emoji.
When I do meet up with the group again, I'm going to pull McLafferty and Bostonbrook, and I guess X2 aside, because I trust X. Honestly, that's probably my last mistake. And I'll tell them to keep everything and anything private. Nothing leaves your mouths about the facility. What is seen here will stay here. I'm basically giving them a prep talk for the end of the world.
Okay. And Boston just kind of salutes you, and he's like, aye aye, Captain.
X.
I suppose if I must.
Very good. Who knows, X? Maybe one day we'll let you out. I'm just kidding, of course. Of course we'll let you out one day.
Bostonbrook picks up Battlecock and begins to pet him like a cat.
All right, well, to the auction we go.
All right. So, as you guys kind of get ready to head off to the auction, Bostonbrook's like, so, gentlemen, some basic information I feel you all should know. Firstly, the action is going to be happening on like the 20th something floor of a large building in downtown New Orleans. Secondly, the auction house requests that no one bring firearms, but you are allowed to bring melee weapons and magical stuff because they assume everyone there is going to be a wizard anyway. Thirdly, of course, if we do end up getting into a scuffle with anyone, be aware the security officials at the event probably have some kind of magical resistance or some kind of countermeasures in place to prevent theft or magic use on them at the very least. And of course, have fun. And then he just kind of takes his pistol, his 911 out of his holster and kind of puts it in the drawer of his desk in his office and is like, he kind of pats the drawer and he's like, I'll be back, honey.
I will take my flintlock pistol out and leave it in my office.
Alrighty. And then Bostonbrook's like, and of course, because I didn't want to raise suspicion about you all, because, well, I mean, X here doesn't look quite like a cop, and Battlecock is the opposite of a police officer. But Dr. Helsing, I will admit, you do smell like a snitch. So, to keep suspicion relatively low, I am going to bring my bodyguard, Miss Valerian, with me, because that's what I would do otherwise. So if I don't bring her along, it would look suspicious. So.
Very well.
It's like, don't worry, you'll barely notice she's even there, I assure you. She's quite good at her job.
Well, alright then.
And then, I assume, unless you guys want to do anything beforehand, we just go to the auction.
X, anything else we want to do?
Nothing in particular, I suppose, but I do have a question.
Sure.
Ask away.
You see, I have an item I like to bring with me when I go places, and I'm not sure if it would count as a magical item or a gun. Or both.
Yes, the magical crystal-filled revolver that you have. That, I'll say, I mean, it isn't technically a firearm because there's no gunpowder in it.
But it looks like a gun?
Yeah, it looks like a magnum revolver, but it isn't because it doesn't fire any bullets, so yeah, that's fine. Basically, the point is that the magic security forces can counter magic, but they can't counter a lead bullet, so they don't want people bringing in guns because, you know, it's harder to just, like, mage hand a bullet away.
Fair point.
So, yeah, that's their point.
Fair point.
Yeah, so that's why they don't want actual firearms. But you can bring, like, you know, like the magic revolver. You could bring, like, I don't know, an airsoft gun, I guess. That's probably the most you're gonna get.
I'll just keep my sword on me.
All right, yeah, Bostonbrook's like,
My lighter.
They could try to take my sword from me, from my cold, dead hands. And he kind of grips the hilt, or the handle of Life's Limit.
I'll look over to Bostonbrook and I'll be like, well, that's the idea, yes.
And he kind of like winks and finger guns at you. And then
What a man.
yeah, of course. And then you guys leave through the front doors onto the street of New Orleans, where a limousine has pulled up. A limousine with the door, the passenger side and the driver's side door, are marked with Bostonbrook's family crest on it, which I haven't actually come up with yet, but I will at some point. But it is his family crest. And then the passenger side window of the limousine rolls down, and you can see a beautiful high elf woman in the driver's seat. She has two very intricate-looking bionic arms, and you won't recognize her as being Valaic Valerin, Bostonbrook's personal bodyguard and butler, who's been with him for like 50-plus years at this point, and has saved his life an uncountable number of times. Because he is not... Bostonbrook does not have the best survival instincts. So, he kind of needs her around. But yeah, so the window rolls down, and you see her in the driver's seat, and she's like, yes, the usual Three Stooges. In the vehicle, please, gentlemen.
Usual gaggle.
Yes, the usual gaggle of Stooges. And then the back door opens on its own. And Bostonbrook gets in and like, yes, Miss Valerin, right on time as always. And he gets into the limousine.
Well, yeah, I'll get in.
Yep, you all climb into the limousine. There's a special little like booster seat for Battlecock. That's kind of shaped like a chicken's nest, to kind of keep him in place. And then Bostonbrook kind of taps a button on the wall, and two chilled bottles of champagne slide out from a panel in the wall of the limousine, and he picks one up and he pops the cork out on one of them, and he pours some glasses of champagne, one for everybody except for Battlecock, who can't drink. And he's like, a toast to everyone present. A good, reconvening after a couple of weeks of nice rest after the tense problems faced last time. And he raises a glass.
Yeah, I'll cheers that.
All right. Yes, he cheers you all. As well, sip your champagne. It is pretty good champagne. And then as soon as Bostonbrook downs his entire glass in one sip, he then proceeds to produce a flask and pour an unidentifiable alcoholic beverage into the champagne glass, and then chug that as well a couple of times. And then he puts the bottle of champagne back on the stand, and the glasses back in their places, and then the panel slides back in place and hides the alcohol. And you guys drive.
How unfortunate that he didn't bring his tumbler.
No, that's in like deep storage. Probably somewhere in his basement.
Tumbler demons.
He freaks out. He goes for his gun that isn't there anymore.
He perishes.
He just does a heart attack and drops dead on the spot. Yeah. Yeah, so you all drive across the city to the auction house. It's like a half an hour drive in this nice limousine. Classical music is played the whole time in the background over the car's kind of stereo system. Do you have anything you guys wish to discuss, like a plan or something, before you go into this? Or is it just go there and improvise?
I'm going to ask if there is a period where you can inspect the artifacts up for auction.
Bostonbrook's like, oh yes, the items on display are all generally in like display cases and stuff behind glass, along the walls and in the middle of the kind of main auction floor, and then they are removed and brought back to their storeroom before being brought out again one by one for the actual bidding.
I will also tell everybody to be on watch for a mid-30s looking man with a goatee, a cane, and what was he wearing? Like a red suit?
Like a Renaissance era kind of. It's technically like a theatrical costume, a very poofy theatrical costume, Renaissance era, like a Shakespearean outfit basically.
Yes.
But it's bright red and black and gold.
Yeah. Or anyone similar to the man that I shot once we first started our ventures together.
Bostonbrook takes a swig out of his flask and he's like, the old man you killed like years ago, is he around again?
Yes. And it turns out he's magical, so...
Bostonbrook laughs in your face. You're like, oh, that's good.
Which means if he's coming for me, then he's probably coming for you too, Bostonbrook, so I wouldn't be laughing.
You're like, what? I didn't put a nail through his cranium, now did I?
Correct.
I just laughed
you
at him.
Associate with me.
Well, that's true, unfortunately.
And if he's bringing war, then you're involved in that war.
Bostonbrook, he kind of taps Life's Limit on his hip, and he's like, well, I'm always down for a fight.
Well, just do keep a lookout.
And he kind of like opens, uses his fingers to kind of open his eye very wide, and he's like, always.
Good.
So, any further discussions to be had?
Anything? I'm gonna ask Bostonbrook if there's anything we should look out for in general.
Like, well, I mean, I guess it depends on how we want to go about this. Do we want to kick the door in and go in guns blazing, or actually try to win the artifacts, or steal them, or what?
If we can bid and win, then we will do that. I have the full support of the Foundation with me. So, if we can bid on said objects and win them, we will.
Bostonbrook's like, well, all right, then I suppose that makes things simpler, and he kind of leans in and he's like, can I still bid on other things for myself, yes?
I'm not your babysitter. If you want to bid on whatever magical artifacts that will not threaten to destroy the world, be my guest.
Then Valaic kind of reaches her hand back, like around the driver's seat, and Bostonbrook high fives her.
I said any artifacts that will not threaten the safety of the world. As in a bag of cold.
Well, most items sold at these things don't tend to threaten the world. Just that some of them do.
That seriously deviate from that path.
Like, yes, that's why I'm here. I want to investigate for myself, you know? See if I can get my hands on them, and then either hand them over to you or destroy them myself.
Actually, that wouldn't be a bad idea. I will run that by the council then. The destruction of at least the blood would suffice.
Bostonbrook kind of taps his nose and he's like, now you're cooking with gas.
Well, alright then. Even if they say no, we could tamper the blood with ammonia.
Bostonbrook's like, well, it isn't human blood, so I don't know how that would work, but it would be an interesting experiment, to say the least.
Exactly, and I did say that I would be running my own tests, so...
So long as you destroy the stuff afterwards, I don't really care.
Exactly. That's the plan.
And Bostonbrook's like, well, in terms of things to look out for, assume every single person in attendance can cast magic.
Sounds about right.
And also, I would assume, all of the glass cases are magically warded, so no touchy, yes?
That goes without saying.
Well, I don't know what your plan is, so I figured I would say it anyway.
I believe in us.
And Bostonbrook's like, as do I. I think this will go swimmingly.
Alright, well... Not much else to do but wait for the event.
Alright, so you guys pull up to the curb of this probably like 30-story, very fancy, it looks like a hotel. One of those like big hotels where they can hold like conventions and stuff on the different floors. Or like big like wedding receptions, stuff like that in them. And you guys walk in, and Bostonbrook flashes, he brings out an invitation, what you assume is an invitation. And it is this kind of plastic, like gunmetal gray plastic key card, with a magic runic ritual circle, kind of like laser engraved on the key card, and it kind of waves at the receptionist, and she's like, "Oh, of course, gentlemen, right this way," and she points you to an elevator, and she taps like the button, like the 28th floor or whatever, and you all ascend up. You all get out of the elevator. There are a bunch of bouncers out front of this like kind of convention room, this big open like gala ballroom area. And now I can provide the map of the auction floor. Isn't that lovely?
It is quite lovely. Well, I can lead the way.
Alrighty. So, yes. So, you all kind of pop out of the elevators into the kind of main sitting area. And then, you guys walk around to that left side of the wall, where it kind of leads into the auction room itself. You can see big display cases along the walls, on stands. There are also a couple of like really big like carved marble statues in here, and they're also kind of troubling because one of them is definitely like Cthulhu or something, and the other one looks like some kind of Greek statue you don't recognize.
Can I run an insight check because I am Greek by origin?
Well, it doesn't appear to be. I guess you would know that it isn't actually Greek. It appears to be just carved in a Greek style.
Okay. Okay.
It looks kind of like. It looks kind of like the Thinker, the very famous Thinker statue. But the figure who is in that Thinker pose has a bunch of part of his head is missing, and there are a bunch of actual iron and brass and bronze cogs and gears sticking out of his head. And the arm that's resting underneath his chin is also made of cogs and chains and metal plates and stuff. It's very strange.
I get the feeling that's Teyako.
No, it is most definitely not Teyako. It's a reference to something else.
Okay. Should I get that reference?
No, you would
Okay.
not. Nobody here
Okay.
would. Xavier, out of character, might
Out of
character, Xavier
Out of
would
character.
might be able to guess, if I gave some more details. But it'd be a tough sell for him to get it right too. I think.
Is there just corn on a pedestal?
Yeah, I think there is like on one like in one display case. You know those like the really fancy ornate like Russian Fabergé eggs.
Yes.
It's like that, but it's a big corn.
There's a
big
corn
kernel.
Fabergé egg?
Yeah, it's a huge corn kernel, and it's like gold and like ivory and pearl and stuff like that, and it's super beautiful. It radiates corn energy, which you don't know what that it is, but it radiates corn energy.
Love it.
Uh,
I'll go over to the case and I'll be back for you later.
And among the other items you guys see, in one corner there is kind of like it looks kind of like a tapestry from a distance, but it's kind of in a big glass case against one of the walls, and it's this probably like 8-foot long piece of like papyrus parchment, and I think X can read it because X is a hell worshipper, but this is a demonic contract for somebody's soul that's just on display, which is really bad for whoever this person was, because if you have the person's contract, then you can control the bargain and control that person. So you're just getting a free soul in exchange for buying this piece of paper, basically.
All your money in the world, all your money for this one person's soul.
Yeah. Well, as Xavier knows, a human soul with the right people is not worth a lot of money.
Well,
But yeah, so you guys see that devil contract. There is just an Egyptian sarcophagus in one part of the room, like a whole gold bejeweled sarcophagus. Where else? What else do you guys see? You would see a bunch of like ornate daggers and swords, a couple of suits of armor from different locations around the world in different time periods. There are a couple of relics that are attributed to being like saints, so like like Saint Paul's body parts or whatever. So like I know how the church does that. What else? There is a meteorite in here. It's probably like 5 feet in diameter, and it's cracked in half, and you can see inside of the meteor. It's lined with this weird gray, like ashy, organic structure that appears to be decaying or like desiccated, and it looks kind of like this meteor used to be alive, and it's very strange alien biomechanical structures, and it's dead and it's like rotting away in this display case. Very, very creepy, very strange. What else would be here? Also, probably there just is like a skeleton of like a demon in here, just straight up, the whole demon skeleton against one wall. What else? There is a couple of, how they have like the bear pelts for like floor mats.
yeah.
They have a couple of those, but they're yetis.
Oh, I was gonna say bear bugs.
Oh,
Bugbear.
Bugbears. Yeah, those two probably. A couple of owl bear pelts as well, for sale. And Bostonbrook points to the one of the yeti, and he's like, "Oh, I have several of these around my house. They're very,
Yes, I know
very.
you've killed them.
I have, but they're pretty comfy for blankets as well." And he kind of talks to like every item in here, he tells a story about it. Basically, he's like, "Oh, I have something like that. I have something like that."
I'll turn to McLafferty, and I'll be like, "That's a visual that I do not want in my head at all."
You're like, "What? Him wearing a yeti?"
No, him laying naked on a yeti.
She's like, oh, why did I ask? And she kind of walks away. She's like, I need a palate cleanser. She grabs like a bottle of wine or like a glass of wine off like a passing waiter's tray and just like begins chugging it.
Palate cleanser.
Yeah, which is McLaughlin for I need to get wasted right now.
All right. Well.
And eventually, in a display case right against the stage, there is probably like a 5 foot tall by like 6 inch deep and like 7 feet wide glass case, and suspended in this glass, in in like probably like eye level in it, there is a ring with the seal of Solomon on it, and then next to it there is a glass vial with a cork in it, and some blood that is glowing with like embers and sparks, and almost kind of like lava. It's kind of like it's like perpetually flowing by itself in this vial, and they are both labeled the Seal of Solomon or the Ring of Solomon and a vial of the devil's blood.
Well, I don't think you need to be an individual of unholy nature to discern that that is. Well, at least it looks like the real thing. I will adjust my glasses and see if it is radiating magic.
All right, yes, you kind of blink your eyes, and you kind of change your vision spectrum to look at magic around the room. This entire room is like staring into the sun. Because every person here is decked out in magic items. The walls are lined with magic items. Like it's ridiculous. The ambient like magical radiation in here probably enough to like mutate a small cat. To be honest, but you do look at the vial, and it does radiate an awful lot of demonic magic. And you look at the ring, and that radiates. It glows like a tiny star. Conjuration
With
magic.
Oh,
An enchantment as well, I think.
I thought it was going to be divination, but okay. All right, well, we do appear to be dealing with the real thing. Time to get bidding.
All right, so you guys walk around, look at the other items. There's a suit of samurai armor in here that's rumored to have belonged to like an ancient, super cool, famous celebrity samurai warrior dude. What else? There are a couple of canopic jars that are said to hold the organs of ancient pharaohs or something like that. There is in like the center of the room, not covered in a glass case, is just a big stone slab with dried blood on it that is labeled as being literally just a sacrificial altar that they're just selling. Which is kind of weird because you're like, but it's just like a block of like limestone. Anybody could make this. Why would you buy it?
Exactly.
And you kind of like read the fine print on the label, and it says that it's a sacrificial altar, but the dried blood on the altar belongs to some ancient historical figure that you don't recognize the name of. And you're like,
Okay.
Weird people. Also, the people in here are all dressed like wizards, basically. They're all, most of them are dressed in big poofy jackets or vestments with big poofy hats. They all got staffs or wands on their hips or swords or knives. A couple of them appear to be like from the Middle East. They have like big turbans and flowing silk robes. Some of them appear to be like from Asia and stuff as well, dressed in things like
Do we
Buddhist
get our
monk robes.
paddles at any point?
Yeah, you do. Off to
nice.
when you guys
Sick.
first entered the auction room, Bostonbrook got a paddle.
Well, I
from
would
the-
need one too because I'm bidding on behalf.
Well, Bostonbrook's like, what? You didn't get an invitation? I did. I will be taking the bidding. You just tell me what to bid on and how much, and I'll do it.
Okay. Works for me.
Let's see. And then after probably like 15 minutes of walking around, looking at all the wacky things that these people are buying. You do actually find several of the items in here are just straight up fake. Like that altar,
Yeah.
for instance, is definitely BS. Like, there's no, why would you buy?
Yeah.
Why would you buy a piece of stone with blood on it? It makes no sense. But other items are just straight up fake. And yeah, so after about 15 minutes of walking around, looking at fake items and real items, Bostonbrook walks up to you all. And I also Battlecock is allowed inside of the auction house as a support animal for X, so that's nice. These evil wizards have a heart when it comes to support animals. They aren't ableist or anything. So X is holding Battlecock, looking at the items. Eventually, Bostonbrook walks up to you guys, and he seems anxious. He seems kind of nervous. And he walks up to you guys, and in very hushed tones, he's like, "Gentlemen, we have a bit of a problem."
That would be.
Well, you see, one of the other guests. Let me ask you this question, Dr. Van Helsing. On that list of names you saw, perchance, did you happen to see a name of Charles Misson, perhaps? Yes.
Assumably, yes.
Yeah, you did. You kind of look back and you remember it was right underneath Bostonbrook's name. And Bostonbrook's like, well, that is incredibly unfortunate. You see, Mr. Misson is besides being a pirate lord and ruling over Libertalia at the moment, I do believe, he's also an expert thief and a magic collector. One of my rivals, I'm afraid. He's harassed me at every stage of my career over the past 60, 70 years. And he's beaten me at almost every turn. Because he is magic. He hasn't aged in 50 years. And he's a very proficient burglar.
Well, if I was you, I wouldn't worry. We have the funds, and we most certainly have the means to overtake him.
And Buster you see him kind of like a bead of sweat rolls down his forehead, and he kind of takes a handkerchief out and dabs it away. And he's like, "Yes, I'm sure we do. But keep an eye out and watch your pockets." And then he goes and sits down in his assigned seat in the auction room. And then 5 minutes go by, and the kind of door to the side of the auction room opens up, and a man you all recognize as the leader of this auction, Mr. Hopkins, who I have art for.
So are we sitting with him?
The Bostonbrook, yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you all are given like seats on either side of him, basically. So Mr. Hopkins is probably only like 5'2". He's very short. Appears to be in his 50s or 60s. Dressed as the photo shows. Looks kind of suspicious. He's like side-eyeing everyone. When he walks up out of a side room and up to the podium on top of the stage, and he kind of taps the microphone, and he's like, "All right, well, good evening, everyone. I, of course, am the organizer's fine event, Mr. Stephen Hopkins. I'm here to, of course, welcome you all to the 832nd bi-monthly auction, led, of course, by yours truly, myself. I'm very happy to have so many of the high-profile collectors of the magical world with us today. And he kind of points to Bostonbrook straight up, and he's like, you've been joined by the very famous Dr. Nathaniel Bostonbrook, and the crowd claps for him, and he stands up, and he's, he bows and he waves, and he's like, thank you very much. Which you think is kind of sus, because everybody here knows him, apparently, and that's kind of like, Bostonbrook criminal? Yes, is the answer to that question. And Hopkins is like, Mr. Bostonbrook, of course, has graced us with his presence this month. And we have some very high-profile items up for sale this time as well, as you're all aware. So, let the bidding begin and let the best man win. Yes, the biggest pocket. And then he steps off to the side, and the auctioneer steps up, and they begin selling items. They bring items one at a time onto the stage from the storage room in their glass containers still, on like little trolleys or something, or whatever, and bidding them off. Bostonbrook bets on almost every item. Literally almost everything. And after probably like a half an hour of bidding, Bostonbrook's like total charges are several $100 million. Like he racks up big money. Now JVH, you've seen Bostonbrook's banking information. He's a billionaire. He has a lot of money, so he can afford this. But you're still like Bostonbrook. After you guys kind of like bash the altar they're selling, he straight up drops like $20 million on that fake altar just out of principle.
Why? Why?
Like the auctioneer's like, this altar we're going to be selling it for $1,000, and Bostonbrook's like, 25,000 just right off the bat, and the auctioneer's like, oh, interesting, and then like Misson also bets like a bunch of money on the altar on principle as well, and the two of them go back and forth until the price hits like a dozen million or whatever, and Misson's like, gross, I'm not that dumb. And then Bostonbrook's like,
Bostonbrook, you better have enough to cover the price for both of those items that we need.
He's like, of course I do, my friend. My net worth is ludicrous, to be quite frank. But plus you have the company credit card, so it's fine. These I'm all paying with my own money, so don't judge me, all right? And then he just buys a bunch of other random junk. Like he buys like the samurai armor. He buys some swords and staffs and necklaces. He buys the sarcophagus, and the canopic jars too, for no reason. He just wants them. They're pretty. He buys them. And then the final item is decided. The big glass case you guys examined before is wheeled onto the stage. There's a curtain covering it because they do that for every item that they reveal it dramatically first, and they wheel it on stage, and Hopkins walks up and he's like, "All right, everyone, we appreciate your patience so far, but now the event you've all been waiting for, the main items to be sold and purchased. First up, the ring of the ancient, the mystical, the mythical King Solomon." And then he pulls the curtain off of the glass case, and it's empty.
I chuckle.
And Hopkins looks, and nobody claps, and it's kind of like stunned silence staring back at him. He's like jazz handing off at the display case, and he looks back and he's like, "What?" And you see him, he realizes it after he looks at it, and he's like, and his jaw drops, and his eyes go wide, and he's like, Then he kind of adjusts his tie, and he's like, 10-minute intermission, please. And he kind of wheels the empty case back down the stairs into the side room. And the auctioneer comes back up, and he's like, everyone please remain calm. Nobody can leave. Stay put. We will find out what has happened shortly. And you all hear as the doors into this room close and lock, and the guards stand in front of the doors. Make sure nobody leaves.
Hey, Bostonbrook. I want to ask your boy about what's going on here.
He's like, which boy? I know almost everyone in this room.
The one that you said is a thief.
Okay. Well, I'm going to make a check for Bostonbrook then. Ah. So you see he stands up as everybody's kind of looking around, talking in hushed tones, being like, "Oh my god, they lost the Ring of Solomon. What a bunch of idiots." You know, just like that too. They're all teenage girls. Even the Arabic guys too. And Bostonbrook kind of sits there, he looks around for a few seconds, and he kind of spins around a few times, looks around, and you see him get more and more frantic the more he looks around. After a good 10 seconds, he kind of plops back down in his seat. It turns over to you, and he's like, "I don't see him anywhere."
Well, then, there is a high likelihood that we also lost the blood, which is not good either.
Yes, the bringing the blood were in the same case, and they were both gone.
Well, Bostonbrook, you know him the best. Do you have any ideas?
Bostonbrook kind of he kind of looks down at the ground, and he kind of strokes his beard, and he's like, "Well, Mr. Misson is an expert thief. So if I had to bet, he's probably already halfway to Tahiti by now."
Well, not much we can do then. All we can really do is wait until the auction is over.
Bostonbrook's like, "Well, we were still, our actual mission is still to handle Mr. Hopkins, no?"
Well, of course. And I'll stand, and I'll go to the backstage.
Okay, so you walk onto the stage. There are two doors in here that lead. One leads to the kitchen for the caterer, and then the other one leads to the artifact storage on the map.
Assumably, the guy is in artifact storage, so I'm gonna go to the artifact storage room.
All right, so you walk up, and there are two big burly guys in black suits with earpieces and a tough look about them. In front of the door, and you approach, and they hold their hands out, and they're like, "Sorry, sir, this area is off limits."
Yes, I've heard it all before, but my friend just purchased most of your relics. And, I'll reach into my coat pocket, and slowly pull out my identification.
You your actual, your legit, JPCU ID?
Yes.
Okay. So you reach into your pocket and you pull out an actual JPCU identification card, with your mahogany level clearance or whatever little clearance you have. And you see the two guards. One of them kind of squints, leans down, and looks at it. And he reads the letters on it, JPCU. And he turns to he looks at his buddy. His buddy looks at him. Look at you. And one of them's like, "One moment, boss." And then he just kind of turns around, opens the door, and walks in, closes it behind him, and you can hear through the wall.
I'm going to explain to the one guy that's still outside. I'm just going to tell him, I wish just nothing more than just to have just a quick word with your boss.
The guard's the guard is now actively sweating. You can see the sweat on his forehead and stuff. He's tapping his foot nervously.
I'll just keep a nice, calm smile. I'll keep my hands at my waist and just looking around, surveying the room.
Okay. The party has kind of resumed, although the conversations in most of the little cliques around the place seems to be, "Oh my god, somebody stole the Ring of Solomon. Somebody stole Satan's blood. Pretty cool, bro. Was it you? Was it me, bro? Was it you? No." And probably a few moments later, the door opens up again, and the guard comes out again. The second guard comes out, and he's like, "Yeah, what do you want?"
I just wish to have a quick word with your boss. Nothing more.
The guard ducks back into the room, and then 5 seconds later, the door opens, and Mr. Hopkins is standing there. and you see that he's also seems quite nervous and anxious. You're like, oh, yes, I heard you wanted to speak with me, sir.
Yes, might we continue this conversation in private?
Are the others with you at this point? Like, is X standing there and
Well,
Bostonbrook and
I'd assume that the others are with me. But I'm saying away from the other guests.
yeah. Okay, yeah. So that's what I thought. Okay, so he sees you, and then he sees the others, and he sees Bostonbrook. You're like, oh, is this an associate of yours, Mr. Bostonbrook? And Bostonbrook's like, you could say that, I suppose, yes. But come
More
on,
like
Mr. Hopkins.
his boss.
Yes, let's just have a quick chat, yes? And Hopkins is like, yes, of course. And then it's like, please, follow me. And he leads you back into artifact storage, which is a big warehouse-style room with a bunch of drawers and lockers and display cases and stuff, all now labeled with the owners of the new items. Most of those labels
of which are
being Bostonbrook, yes. His name's on like half the items in this room. And Hopkins is like, well, what can I do for my best customer? And Bostonbrook's like, well, I believe my companion, Dr. Van Helsing here, is going to be doing the talking for me, yes?
Quite astute of you. Now, I couldn't help but notice that the most priceless item on your list has gone missing.
And Hopkins is like, yes, that is true, I'm afraid.
Now, this is a very large problem because the JPCU has, and I'll like fiddle with my fingers for a second, trying to come up with a word, has tasked me with accruing this item for us to study and promptly destroy afterwards. As you can see, this is not a collector's item. This is a very serious set of items that, if not dealt with as soon as possible, could mean the destruction of mankind if it falls into the wrong hands. I'm assuming you understand the dangers of this.
Mr. Hopkins is like, well, I suppose I do, yes, but I'm not responsible for anything that my clients do with the items. I'm simply the middleman, the broker.
Well, of course, but there does seem to be an issue with the delivery of said items. How did you acquire those two items in specific? And please do tell the truth. I would like to keep some level of honesty between us.
And Hopkins is like, well, the Ring of Solomon, I believe, was uncovered from a archaeological dig near the Middle East. As you know, Islam has faced better days since the Middle East is now a hellscape, and the sites near the border of said hellscape have been dug up, I suppose, to build more fortifications by the church, and they discovered the ring in an underground dungeon near the border.
And the blood, sir?
The blood, why, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure. It was anonymously donated to my organization a few weeks ago, I believe, and kept in storage. I only found out what it actually was a couple of weeks ago when we unlocked the cases to put out the advertisements and the invitations.
I see. Now, and I'll like fix my tie and everything as I look around. Now, you do understand the problem that we have here, correct? If someone were to use these two items in tandem, it could bring an invasion onto the world that none of us would want to see, correct?
And Hopkins is like, well, Yes, yes, I would imagine that would be quite awful.
Now, do you have a place of residence for the man known as, and I'll look to Bostonbrook for the name.
Yeah, Charles Misson, the guy that stole the artifacts, you believe?
Yes, Charles Misson.
Hopkins is like, yes, I believe he has his invitation was sent to a P.O. box in South Africa.
Very good. Now, I will be asking you, of course, to refrain from doing anything like this in Louisiana, at least. See,
He just nods vigorously at you.
when you do things here, it is asked of us to investigate and shut down said operations. So please let this be the last one here.
He's like, of course, sir.
Thank you very much, good sir. Now, you may distribute these items to their appropriate winners, and I will bid you a good day.
All right.
And I'll bow to him.
Okay, yeah, you kind of do a light bow, and he kind of nods as well. And then Hopkins is like, he kind of reaches over to a desk, and he pulls out a bunch of folders, like binders, and he just hands them all to Bostonbrook, and he's like, "Here is your paperwork for your bills of sale, Mr. Bostonbrook." And Nathaniel's like, "Dr. Bostonbrook, my good man, please." But thank you, yes, very much. Cheerio, and he just kind of walks out after you.
I will walk out of the room, and then as soon as I turn around, my polite smile turns to a completely angered scowl.
Okay, so yeah, so you guys leave the main auction, well, the artifact storage, and as soon as you leave and enter into the main auction room, you see Misson, or at least as he was described to you by Bostonbrook, standing probably a couple of yards away from the door to the artifact storage, kind of leaning against one of the display cases, and he's twirling a ring around his pointer finger. And he's like, yes, if he isn't my least favorite Englishman, and he's a companion of idiots. And he keeps twirling the ring on his finger.
I'll straighten my tie while keeping a straight face, and I will be the one to walk over. Mr. Misson, I'm assuming.
And like, so you know about me then, huh? Very good. Yes, I am he.
Yes, I do. The ring we could care less for, but the blood, that is of some great interest to us. I am asking politely. May I please accrue the blood, and then after we are done, I will have it sent to your P.O. box.
Mison's like, well, I did not take the blood. I only took the ring. And he kind of, flicks the ring into the air, and he catches it in his hand. And he kind of holds it out to you. He's like, I only took it because, I did not want Bostonbrook to buy it.
Well, you see, he was not buying it for himself. He was buying it for, well, us. And I'll show him my badge.
Okay, yes. He's like, I see. Like, I didn't know you were a snitch, Nathaniel. And Bostonbrook's like, well,
No, he is no such thing. He merely works for us. We found out that he was coming here, and we took interest. The only reason I ask is because if that ring and the blood vial were to fall into the wrong hands, we could face something that, well, even you could not stop.
And he's like, well, like I said, I did not take the blood, but, I did see someone else in the artifact storage room, yes? Where I took the ring
Could
from?
could you describe that person to me?
Well, he was wearing a poofy Shakespearean suit, very sharp goatee like my own, and he kind of strokes his beard.
And a mahogany cane.
Like, you know this man, then, we?
Unfortunately, yes. I shot him once.
He's something like, well, you must have missed. And he kind
No,
of grins.
no. My nail caved his head in. But that is of little concern as of right now. Might I pay you for the ring, Mr. Misson?
He's like, well, admittedly, it is a stolen artifact, so, and he kind of, like, stands up and kind of, like, up straight from leaning on the display case, and he hoists the ring up in the air. He's like, attention everyone, I seem to have found the stolen ring. It was on the floor underneath these chairs over here, so don't worry, no theft here, huh? And he kind of flicks the ring over to one of the guards, who kind of catches it in his hands against his chest. And he then turns to you all, and he's like, I have no interest in the ring. I only have interest in screwing over Mr. Nathaniel, huh? And he's like, starting with this. And he kind of reaches behind his back, and he pulls out the canopic jar that Bostonbrook had purchased. And Bostonbrook's like, what? Where did you keep that thing? And Muton's like, don't tell. And then he just kind of puts it back, like behind him, and then Bostonbrook runs over trying to like stop him, and he's like, "What? Where did it go? You stupid Frenchman!" And he kind of grabs him by
Bostonbrook, bigger fish to fry.
I'm like, oh, fine. And he kind of walks back over. He's like, well, I believe my work here is done. I've already bought all the things I want to buy. I have mocked Bostonbrook in front of his friends, and I have witnessed a very terrible crime. So I'm going to leave. Have a good day, gentlemen.
Smart decision.
And then he turns away, and he kind of melds into the crowd of people.
Well, I guess we will be doing the auction on the ring after all.
Yep, the auction for the ring does go off, and nobody wants to buy it anymore because they're like, that was super sus that it went missing from the display case and was found underneath somebody's chair. So they're all kind of like,
Well, looks like we're betting on it, Bostonbrook.
Bostonbrook's like, indeed, it would seem that way.
What is it you like to say? Tally-ho?
And he's like, tally-ho indeed. And then he holds up the paddle, and he's like, $1 million for the Ring of Solomon, please, Mr. Hopkins. And Hopkins is like, all right, cool. You know, going once, going twice, whatever. And a few other people do, like, bet on it, but not a lot. Only a handful of people. Because most of them, like I said, are kind of like, that was kind of weird that it went missing. And they're all wizards. They all know something weird's going on. So they're all kind of like, let's not, you know?
As soon as that auction's done, I'm going to go with Hobson to claim the artifact.
Okay.
And pay for it, respectively.
Okay. Yeah, so you and the others all kind of go back to Hopkins. And yeah, you all pay for your stuff. Bostonbrook pays for his stuff. He just gives Hopkins a credit card, and he's like, here you are, sir. And that's it.
I'll use the JPCU card for the $1 million charge.
All right. And then, ching, you know, you swipe the credit card, and Hopkins is like, I see, of course, on company time, are you?
Of course.
Right,
now,
works for me.
Now, if none of us mind, I will be taking that ring. Thank you.
And Hopkins kind of reaches over and he puts the ring in like a little like ring box, like a velvet ring box, and he hands it to you. And he's like, "There you are, sir."
I thank you. Now, without further ado, we will be off. And As I said, please do refrain from doing business in Louisiana. I very much appreciate your understanding.
Hopkins is like, of course, yes, yes.
All right, and now back to base.
All right, so you all leave the auction with everybody else, get back in the limo, half an hour drive back to the headquarters, you all make it back.
All right, time to go back into the basement. This time, I will have McLafferty with me.
All right, you do so.
All right, I'll turn to McLafferty and I'll be like, all right, are you ready to brief the High Council?
She's like, yeah, if I have to be, I guess.
Well, all right, let's do this. I have the ring with me. I'm still in my nice suit. Okay, we'll enter the room.
Yep, it's the same setup with all the different computer screens.
All right, turn the monitor on and the camera. And await the higher ups.
All right, the Skype call goes through, and you all.
First it was Zoom, now it's Skype.
That's the joke. Yeah, I'm just gonna go through all of the.
Next it's gonna be Telegram.
Gonna be FaceTime and Telegram. Yeah, then what's like the like a group me, all the different messaging apps. Yeah, Messenger. But yeah, so the board of directors just pop up in their same kind of shadowy silhouetted offices. And 01 is like, so, Dr. Van Helsing, did you do as we asked?
Unfortunately, half of what was promised could not be obtained. Whoever the older man was that visited me before has taken the blood.
You can just kind of sense the weight that rests on the room, basically, on this virtual chat call, on this FaceTime call.
But fortunately, we do have the ring, which means if something arises, there is hope that we can control it. And I will say this much. When I got into the car, I left the box open and did not close it so that I could keep an eye on it.
Okay, yeah, it is still there.
We do, in fact, have the ring, which gives us some semblance of hope.
And 01 is like, well, that's an excellent item to have. Now we shouldn't have to worry about our demonic subjects rebelling, as long as we can give their handlers the ring.
However, I will suggest this. If things do get bad, then we may have to contact Subject 001 or 002.
No one's like, yes, we have discussed such an eventuality together while you and your companions were off at the auction. We will do our best to look into the situation. If anyone does anything with that blood, we will make you aware, and your team will handle it.
Very well. I await any further contact.
And then one of the probably like 005, I think it was, the accounting director. They're like, and doctor, do tell me you didn't blow all of our funds on this auction?
Only 1 million. No one else was bidding on the object, so we took the opportunity.
He's like, oh, that's a surprise. Well, I certainly appreciate that.
Of course. As for the security of the ring, we will need to have it under 24-hour surveillance. Cameras may end up being unreliable, seeing as this person can just walk through walls, it seems. So we will need at least, if we are to believe that this threat is demonic, a priest on standby at all times, preferably with the ring in tow. If it is mobile, then we stand an even greater chance at keeping it secure.
Owen's like, yes, we have already consulted one another and requisitioned the construction of a new facility, a mobile facility, that should be fit enough to handle the item. We do believe that sending it to various facilities over time for their use in experimentations on the demonic is a good idea, but it is far too valuable and too dangerous to be put into the field. So it is to remain in confinement as often as possible and as far from any other would-be thieves as we can manage.
Of course. At such time, if we would be able to acquire a certain priest to hold on to the ring, that would probably prove advantageous for us.
And Owen's like, you want to give the ring to the church?
Well, not to the church, but to a holy individual that we can conscribe to stay on base, someone of holy persuasion who would not be tempted by such dark forces.
And one of the other directors, speaks up, and that like, well, one, do you have someone in mind for this monumentous task? And one's like, well, I think you're all familiar with Subject 15, are you not? And everybody is. You know that Subject 15 is the code name for Tayako. And one's like, I think a living god should do the trick, don't you, Doctor?
Of course.
And his location on Pilbo should keep him well hidden from most forces, anyway.
Very well. I shall see to it that it is transported to his location immediately.
Very good, Doctor. We should have a new assignment for you and your team in the coming weeks.
I will bow my head and let the feed cut.
Alrighty. It does so. And McLafferty's kind of like sighs a relief, and she's like, well, that wasn't as bad as I figured it would be.
Well, we had no reason for it to go bad.
She shrugs.
As long as they know that we have the ring and we know that we have it in a secure location, we should be fine. Now, I will most likely see to it myself in the next 2 weeks that the ring is transported without fault. And when I return, we will start on that new assignment.
McLafferty nods, and she's like, of course, Doctor, I will prepare the briefing as soon as you leave.
Of course. Alright, and then I guess we leave the room.
And you leave the room, and the camera then kind of lingers in this secure kind of FaceTime room. The Snapchat chamber, as I like to call it.
Chamber.
And after the door kind of closes, there's a kind of black sulfur smoke as the same figure appears in the room after you, in the Snapchat chamber, and he's kind of twirling the vial of Satan's blood between his clawed fingers. And he kind of looks right at the camera, and he's like, ooh, this is going to be fun. And then and he's gone again. And we fade to black.
Oh, joy. Can't wait for that arc to start. Well, if you liked this, you know what to do. The return of our valiant heroes will once again come. Will X betray the JPCU? Who knows? Probably.
What?
Maybe
What are you
he's
talking
playing
about?
a triple agent.
Will Battlecock
Who
eradicate
knows?
1,000 more armed men? Probably.
But that is yet to be seen. Thank you so much for joining us on Quest for the Core.